You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. You wanted it, you got it. A radio program that helps teach you options trading inside and out, basic to complex. This is Options Bootcamp. Whether you want to learn how to protect your portfolio, generate income, or even become a master of volatility, the Options Bootcamp drill instructors will break it all down for you. Now, let's get you into peak options trading shape. Here are your Options Bootcamp drill instructors.
All right, everybody, welcome back to Options Bootcamp, the holiday edition here of the show where we break down what's been lighting up your downloads, what's been lighting up your podcast platform here on the show. Which episodes are you folks really devouring over the course of this past year? My name, of course, is Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, and I want to thank all of you folks out there who have been driving up my bandwidth bills throughout the year. We appreciate it. We love it over here. It's a first world problem to have, and this year has been a year like no other. Options Bootcamp, a year like no other. This past month, November, a month like no other in the 15-plus, coming up on 16-year history of this network. So we're glad to see so many of you folks are out there discovering and enjoying the bounty that is 10-plus years of Options Bootcamp content. As you're listening to this, Dan and I are out traveling for the holidays, but we're not going to leave you folks high and dry without an episode. No, sirree. We've got you covered with your best of what were the most popular, what were the hottest, what were the episodes that you folks were into the most this year. We're going to hit them right now. Top 10 episodes of Options Bootcamp for this magical year that was 2022. All right, here we go. Coming in at number 10, we have Options Bootcamp 173, Gamma Exposure, Portfolio Hedge Debate, and Plant-Based Meats? Question mark. That came out on February 9th of this year. And what you're probably going to see with this show, except for the top couple, which stand amongst themselves, but what you typically see with most shows is a bias towards the beginning of the year because, as with this show as well, people come in, they discover Options Bootcamp throughout the year. And what do they typically do? They go back to the earlier episodes of the year, or in the case of Options Bootcamp, they go way back. So we tend to see a bias towards the earlier episodes. They just had more time to garner downloads, of course. But intriguing nonetheless to see how it breaks out. Number 9. We've got Options Bootcamp 170, Once More Unto the Earnings Breach. That came out on January 19th of this year, so kicking off the new year with a bang, diving right into the earnings vol front. Was a popular topic this year for obvious reasons, and we were happy to get into it here on Options Bootcamp this year with your number 9 episode. Number 8, Options Bootcamp 175, Mystical Delta Probability. That came out on February 23rd of this year. Keeping the party rolling, back to number 7, Options Bootcamp 171, Trading in Volatile Markets, a book club update, crypto, and more. Obviously, there was a lot going on. That came out on January 26th, so we were already starting to see maybe the apex of crypto for the year, starting to see a bit of a decline out there. So crypto is obviously a big talking point. And, you know, we do owe you folks a book club. You guys have asked us in the past to come out with our recommended reading list for Options Bootcamp. We have been remiss in that, so I think for the new year, we will get you a nice Options Book Club. Options Book Club. That'd be a good name for the show. Options Bootcamp reading list. So you folks can sink your teeth into that over the holidays or whenever you have time to read some options books. By the way, I have seen some of you folks tweeting at us with photos of the options educational books that you got under your Christmas tree or whatever holiday you celebrate out there. So fun to see all of that out there. A lot of them authors from this network, including Dan and others out there. A lot of them books that I've written the intros or the forwards for, or little blurbs on the covers. So fun times. Glad to see so many of you are taking your options education seriously heading into the new year. Let's keep this party rolling with number 6, Options Bootcamp 172. What the hell are gamma squeezes? Well, let's find out in this episode. It came out on February 2nd of this year. Now we're getting into it, listeners. The top 5 episodes of Options Bootcamp for this mad, insane year that was 2022. And interestingly enough, the bottom 5, all episodes that came out this year. But again, we're just talking the episodes that were the most popular in this calendar year. What episodes did you folks download the most in this calendar year? And you were not restricted to episodes that came out this year, as evidenced by number 5, Options Bootcamp 167, Spreads, Rolls, and Avoiding End of Day Madness. That came out at the very end of last year, December 29th of last year. So it just missed the cutoff. Just missed sneaking under the radar. But you know what? We counted here because you folks loved it and devoured it, made it our number 5 episode of the year. Number 4, keep the party rolling with Options Bootcamp 169, The Mysteries of Special Dividends. That came out on January 12th. Man, we dove right into it at the beginning of last year, covering all kinds of fun topics out there, including special dividends. We could do many hours just on that, the adjustments that are required there. What are the rules for adjustments? What happens? It's a whole quagmire. As you mentioned on that show, of course, the place to go to learn about special dividends is, of course, Options Clearing Corp. So you have a particular ticker you're concerned about, type that ticker in over there. They should have a circular explaining exactly what is going on with that name. But fascinating stuff in your number 4 episode of Options Bootcamp from this insane year. Let's keep the party rolling. The top 3. Here we go, listeners. These are the bangers. Number 3, Options Bootcamp 168. The top 10 episodes of 2021 Spectacular. So you folks love yourselves a good top 10 list because it was our number 3 overall most downloaded episode of last year. So hopefully you folks enjoy this one equally, if not more so, out there. You folks love yourselves a good countdown. That came out right at the beginning of this year, January 5th of 2022. All right, here we go. Your top 2 episodes of 2022. Let's start with number 2. And it was good old number 2. In fact, Options Bootcamp episode 2, entitled The Greeks, that came out all the way back April 11th of 2012. Ah, yes, we do love this trend. It is kind of unique to Options Bootcamp. People will come back in, and they'll usually discover a show, and they'll go back to the beginning of the year, maybe a couple of years. But in the case of Options Bootcamp, you folks go all the way back to the beginning. And that's what we love about you folks. All the way back, in this case, to April of 2012, to Options Bootcamp Episode 2, entitled appropriately enough, given my co-host on this show, The Greeks. Now, you might be saying to yourself, what is the number 1 overall episode of Options Bootcamp for the insane year that was 2022? And if you heard the last one, it may be a bit of a spoiler because the number 1 episode of Options Bootcamp for this year is the number 1 episode of Options Bootcamp for all time. It is Episode 1, Options Basics, that came out on March 26th of 2012. So well over 10 years ago now. Coming up on 11. That's a little scary as well, listeners. So yes, for the second year in a row, Options Bootcamp Episode 1 has been your number 1 most downloaded episode of the show. In fact, to address that, we did go back recently and remaster that episode so you guys can get a little bit better experience with that. There are firms that were part of that show back then that don't exist anymore. There were topics that were covered that aren't really relevant a decade plus on, so we kind of cut some of that out, remastered the quality of it a bit, so we probably will go back and do more of that throughout the year here in the Options Bootcamp feed, because a lot of you are hanging out and living a decade plus into the past on the show. We want to make sure that's a good experience for all of you out there. But then again, that's your top episode yet again for Options Bootcamp, episode 1. Again, this has been just a completely fantastic, unprecedented, pick your adjective of choice, and it applies to Options Bootcamp this year. We want to thank all of you out there who really have continued to make Options Bootcamp your options education show of choice. We love you all out there. We literally couldn't do it without you folks out there. In fact, this whole year has been pretty much a gift to you folks out there. If you notice, there hasn't been a single sponsor on Options Bootcamp. We continue to do the show because we love you folks out there. It's not about getting paid and sponsorships. It's about keeping you folks informed and educated out there. So we love you folks out there. Stay safe, and we'll see you back here for yet another banger year of options education in 2023.
You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.